Sometimes I wonder, can our dreams guide us towards new ways of living and connecting with others? Do you ever feel the same? This is Dream Space from Factory International with me, Gemma Cairney. I'm a broadcaster, an art lover, I do all sorts of things, and I'm very definitely a passionate daydreamer. To me, dreams are an essential tool of self-discovery and a source of visionary ideas. They can encourage us to open our hearts, our minds and eyes, even if they're closed, allowing us to see new opportunities to seize moments of beauty and let our mind roam without barriers. They can even help us heal. We can find the ideas to make the world a fairer place for all. That's why, here on Dream Space, we invite some of the most exciting creative thinkers to unleash their creativity to conjure up their unique, ideal dream space. No limits, no grids, no filters to fit in. Everything is possible here. Let's push the boundaries of our imagination, inventing tomorrow together. In the last episode, actress and playwright Zawe Ashton shared her dream space with us, a place of self-decolonisation where we are all able to live our sweetest childhood memories, where steam trains carry us across sand beaches and pine tree forests. Today, crafting his dream space from scratch is the iconic artist, performer and thinker, David Hoyle.
I believe that we should all live in slack-jawed wonder. We contain life, and that is a miracle. We live on a planet which magically is suspended in outer space. I mean, please explain that to me.
David is a bit of a Manchester icon, from performing his infamous alter ego, the Divine David, on stages of the underground clubs to presenting his own show on Channel 4 in the 90s. Over the past 4 decades, David has never stopped developing his artistic practice, exploring the themes of gender, mental health, capitalism, revolution, and more. To celebrate over 40 years of his work, in spring 2024, Factory International hosted Please Feel Free to Ignore My Work at the Aviva Studios, where David opened the door to his outrageous and moving world. And now we get to discover his dream space. Let's go. I am delighted to introduce into this liminal dream space where there are no barriers to how far we can go. David Hoyle, hello.
Hello, Gemma, how are you?
I'm very well, I'm excited.
I am too.
So dreams, do you generally like them? Do you trust your dreams?
Yes, I do. I love the idea of dreaming. I don't always recall them, however. But I think dreaming is essential. I think we need a lot of imagination, particularly in the world as it is at the moment, you know. Without dreams, we wouldn't have anything to be optimistic about or to aim for. So I think they are 100% essential.
And being someone whose body of work is very much associated with multiform, somebody who lives and embodies a life in the avant-garde, are you living in a dream?
Yes, I think so. I think I live in a kind of organised chaos in a way. It's quite anarchic.
Having lived through different chapters of society, have you felt like the flavour and the atmosphere of society changed dramatically in your lifetime so far?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our reliance on technology for a start. And I also think their self-identity and people being quite assertive with who they are, I think these are all very positive developments in our society. I love young people's attitude to life. I come from because of my age, obviously, from a time when people were very adamant that there was the binary. They had an idea of a man, they had an idea of a woman, and I think now things are a bit more exciting, a little bit more fluid, and I think that's a very healthy thing.
I like to say, in probably quite a cheesy way, that dreams can come true.
Yeah.
And when we think about the way that we would like the world to receive us, and perhaps if we channel it in art or finding like the right network of people and community, you can suddenly get to a point where you think, wow, some of my dreams came true. Have you had that feeling?
Yes, I do, very much so, Gemma, because I feel that we're getting away from the idea that everything has to be representative of an oppressive heteronormativity. And so I do feel it much more liberating at the moment. But these are liberations that we still have to fight for, we have to assert, because there is a rearguard action that we have to be very aware of. But as far as I'm concerned, we are making progress.
I can't help but be moved always when I have this conversation about the future, multi-generationally, and you being of an older generation to me is just as potent as me having this conversation with someone being of a younger generation to me. But there is this connotation, isn't there, that if you were born in the 60s as you were, that you're probably secretly quite right-wing, because that's the way that the world, turns us.
I think that souls and spirits are naturally communistic, actually.
Right.
I think it's the sort of the temptations of life that can make us be acquiring things, possessing things, being protective of that which we own and all the rest of it, without realising that you can only ever really be in temporary curatorship of anything that is in your life. I always say we're only here for 2 seconds. The first second you tell yourself, oh, I'm alive. The second second it hits you, oh, I'm going to die. And it's the time in between those 2 seconds that literally is your lifetime. If you think in terms of the ever unfolding infinite universe and give it some sort of context.
Beautiful.
We have to get away from sort of being too venal and just realise we're just passing through and we're here for a very limited time.
How does that look in your dream space or feel?
Well, it would look like a wonderful development. Obviously, it would all be sustainable and ecologically sound. To build a community, where we could grow our own food, we could be self-sustaining. We support one another. We're not in competition. This, I feel, would be very beneficial and something that I'd love to get involved with. I think that we all contain creativity, so to live in an environment that was encouraged and not seen as an oddity. I still think that people who are creative, who are artistic, are seen as rather eccentric. I think it's rather eccentric to not be creative, to not be expressive. To be honest with you, Gemma, I do. And there's so many empty properties apparently all over the world that are just going to waste. And there must be back gardens everywhere up and down the country, all over the world, for example, that we could take over and grow food and just get together and live and support and love one another,
Beautiful.
I think at the moment we're living in a very fractured society. We're encouraged to police one another. We're encouraged to look at each other with suspicion, and we have to be very conscious of this, and we have to transcend it.
How would you create a sense of comfort, safety, and that kind of real truth in welcoming all sectors of society? I know that in your work you've talked a lot in a really explicit way about how being marginalised or not understood or othered can be so affecting. It can change the discourse of your life.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's given me a lifetime of mental health problems. I'm not the only one, A lot of us live with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, Getting up is still something that you sort of have, rather than bound out of bed, full of enthusiasm for life. You can think, oh, here we go again. I wonder what abuse I'm going to be exposed to today. Sometimes it's like wading through treacle, and it shouldn't be like that. I believe that we should all live in slack-jawed wonder. We contain life, and that is a miracle. We live on a planet which magically is suspended in outer space. Please explain that to me. And these are amazing concept that our next heartbeat, our next breath, which we take for granted, they're miraculous. And yet life on Earth, particularly at the moment with the cost of living crisis, it gets blighted because rather than us being in slack-jawed awe and wonder, we're worried about, can we pay the rent? Oh no, another brown envelope has arrived. Everything is some sort of venal demand. And I would love to live in a society or on a planet where all that was swept away.
I love it. No scary bills or
Exactly.
demands or even just the hostile. I think
That's
sometimes
it.
it's the hostile words that are
And just
used.
encourage each other to just feel the wonder of life, the beauty that surrounds us.
What would we perhaps pack with us to this new land, new planet, new environment that you have so generously created for us? Do we need anything from this world?
I think we need an open mind. I mean, I've sometimes joked that maybe those of us, and I'm not advocating drug use at all, but it would be an interesting concept if everybody globally perhaps took a naturally derived hallucinogen all at exactly the same time globally, and then we'd find out whether or not in the morning we'd be prepared to put up with the governments that we are doing at the moment. I think we're being very, very tolerant at the moment to governments who are very connected with the international armaments trade, who are very connected with trying to divide society, encouraging us to find a fence where there isn't any, to fragment society. So I think we really need to look at our relationship to government. Ideally, what would be nice would be if we, the people, came together independent of these so-called governments, who I think mismanage the planet and falsely represent probably the majority of people on this planet.
Do you have any suggestion as to how we move through the outrage of the truth? Because I think that a lot of people are starting to wake up perhaps and grasping onto some of the elements of what you're saying, which I feel like has been perhaps a part of your thinking for a long time. But for some people this is new. It's like, oh my goodness, perhaps we can't trust authority. Perhaps they don't care about me.
We can't, and we have every right to live in a perpetual state of ecstasy.
Wow. I love that.
We do. It's our birthright. We didn't ask to be born into a cruel capitalistic system. You couldn't devise a more sinister, satanic, sadistic system other than capitalism, because it can only work for one or two people. So the majority of us are left floundering, perhaps feeling that we've not succeeded because we don't have properties all over the world. We don't have an infinity pool. We don't have this. We don't have that. We don't have the ideal body, blah, blah, blah. All this needs to be swept away. Every human being on Earth, as far as I'm concerned, is equally beautiful, equally valid, and equally justified. It's as simple as that.
So practical tips. How do we feel that in our body memory? How we quite literally store intergenerational trauma. You were talking about the complexity of if stuff has happened to us as we've been growing up marginalised, something I can massively resonate with, and I try to quote unquote do as much of the work as possible so that I can try to achieve this sense of autonomy and even bliss,
Yes.
like experiencing and allowing
Total
myself
happiness.
to say, I'm actually allowed to be happy. I haven't always thought that I should be, but perhaps, when I really go through the labyrinth, it could be a thing.
And not having material demands dragging you down, creating dead weights when you should be flowing freely.
So we're here on this new planet. Can I call your dream space a planet, or is it a space? Yeah.
Yeah. Planet David.
Oh, Planet David. I love it. I love it. What can actually help us embody this ecstasy that you speak of? Because a lot of people perhaps have never felt that.
No. Well, I think it starts with opening your mind and understanding that we're exposed constantly and have been exposed constantly to a never-ending procession of propaganda. You know, there's various forces, they want to populate our mind. They want to oppress us, obviously, because a liberated person is a threat to people who wish to control us. So I would say, have faith in yourself, and we must have faith in one another, as opposed to being told, if you follow this creed or philosophy or political outlook, this will bring you freedom. No, I think just having an open mind, an open heart, not feeling threatened by anybody, and wishing to help one another. I think this is fundamental.
So finding a sense of wanting to create an act of service. Maybe
Yes.
on David's planet we have real easy frameworks for us to create a sense of mutual aid.
Yeah, and to remove any suspicion that we might have when we're in each other's company, you know.
I love that. It's really cool. I'm definitely there, and I feel very honoured to be on the planet
Well,
right
it's
now.
lovely speaking to you, Gemma, you know, and as you say, it's very important that there's the intergenerational connection, you know, it's very, very important because it's always a two-way exchange.
Well, we're cyclically learning, aren't we, from one another? And for the best of that, we have to be open to that.
Yeah, totally.
Would you perhaps, as the I don't feel like you're very hierarchical in terms of status, but you are the dreamer, the initiator of this planet. Would you invite whoever is kind of coming to this place, or like people feeling comfortable, to explore their past in order to create a new future? Is it something you'd recommend?
Yeah, definitely. And then maybe we let go. You know, maybe we let go, we acknowledge it and how it shaped us, how it's formed us, what we're living with. We share that, and then we almost ascend together and transcend together. And become freer. I just think how society is at the moment, it feels so oppressive. It's like living on one of those glue traps which you might buy if you're suffering from vermin infestation.
Oh my
you know?
goodness. Oh my goodness.
And
Do you think it's the worst?
They've made life like a glue trap for vermin.
Oh my God. Do you think it's the worst it's ever been in your lifetime?
Yeah, and it's getting worse with every passing second, and we've got to do something about it. This is why we, as people, need to transcend government.
So are there any tools on Planet David for us to feel empowered, to find the creativity within ourselves and to be surrounded by art? Does that come in the form of painting or sound? Like, how do we experience it?
I think coming from, say, Blackpool, I'm imagining now everybody on the beach at Blackpool just with a stick or even a body part etching into the sand some sort of expression. It could be a word, it could be something that we identify, you know, a figurative representation of a person, anything. But I think what's key to this sort of thing is understanding that the tide comes in and it washes it all away. And a lot of it is very ephemeral, and it just goes up into the atmosphere and it dissolves and it goes. To not sort of monumentalize things too much, you know, particularly now. We have never been more aware of the destructive potential of bombs, of explosions, you know, that can blow up a statue, that can blow up an artwork. You know, an art gallery can burn down, you know, it can be rubble in seconds. I think we're at an absolute crossroads at the moment, and we really, really need to do something about it.
How can we learn from our queer community? I sort of mean it at large, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the outsider's perspective, isn't it? You know, when you feel outside of the norm, when you feel outside of the so-called heteronormative, it is a lonely place to be. But what we've done is we have created communities. You know, every time you go to an LGBT plus bar or anywhere where we come together, you know, that energy is amazing. We've all experienced it. And knowing, oh, I'm not the only one, you know, and like that song, you know, we are family. That's what it's all about. That should be the international anthem for the world.
Yes, that is. It's the international anthem for Planet David.
Yeah. Well, when I say Planet David, it does sound a bit me-centric, that. So I'm thinking of renaming the planet.
Okay, you can rename it. You can do
yeah. Planet
I like
Infinity.
The planet. That's lovely. Do we wear anything in particular?
Wear what you like, Gemma. You're always going to be beautiful.
Ah, you've taken on so many guises. Do you ever look back and just adore any of like the specific looks or creations?
Yeah, well, I've been very lucky. I've always had very creative people around me that have helped me. In the last few years, for example, Rick Owens, the designer, has occasionally donated an item to me, you know, which has been a big help. So I can go from the sublime to the ridiculous, really. I quite like a ready-made outfit that you might have picked up at a charity shop. So you can do that one day, and the next day you can be in Rick Owens, whatever. It's all beautiful, and it's all expression, yeah.
I think it's a really beautiful way to describe that intersection between playing with clothes
very
in
much
a
so.
really fun and perhaps even innocent, like childlike way.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like as we grow and we keep our eyes open and our minds open, the idea of couture and the theatre of design like is sublime and ridiculous.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Should be for everybody. Like,
I mean, we were born naked, weren't we,
right?
Gemma, you know? But obviously, I mean, I'm speaking in Manchester. It's a bit chilly to be walking around, you know.
Do you have an ideal sense of design in terms of architecture on this planet Infinity? Like, would it look differently to like the industrialism that you are surrounded in Manchester?
Well, it would be nice to recycle all that we have, you know. We see amazing blocks of apartments going up all over Manchester, but I know that I'll never set foot in those buildings ever, you know, and I certainly wouldn't be able to purchase an apartment in these towers. So I think that there is a lot of property that we could reclaim, but obviously we need a heck of a lot of social housing, affordable accommodation. So I'd like to create like a situation where we're all living together. I think the three most important things are to have a roof over your head, to have access to education, and to have access to healthcare. That's my triumvirate of thing, my holy trinity. And of course, I'd wish to create it with you, Gemma.
I'm there.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's fun that I've been recording this particular series of Dream Space, which is series 2, whilst quite heavily pregnant, because this is a multi-generational conversation.
Lives, yeah? Amazing. Well, I'll celebrate that, Gemma. Congratulations.
I want to bring the new life to Planet Infinity.
Yeah, and you want to bring a child into a world where that threat of decimation is not there. We don't need it. We need our resources to be spent on, as I say, housing, healthcare, and education.
Is there anything holistic that would be available beyond the healthcare that we all deserve?
And beyond a glass of red wine.
Yeah. And perhaps the hallucinogen that's been
the hallucinogen,
described.
naturally derived, of course. Nature would provide
Lovely.
the hallucinogen.
Is there any kind of technique or practice that you would like to recommend, particularly for those that maybe are very broken and tired?
Screaming.
Oh, yes.
Think of Yoko Ono, John Lennon. They got a lot of release from screaming. Just let it out once and for all. Maybe that's another thing that we could all do collectively, globally. All agree on a certain time we're all going to scream. A massive, primal scream that will unite us. We can hear each other, and it would hopefully work as some kind of cleansing, because we've got a lot to scream about at the moment. We're being misrepresented, and we're living in the shadow of the international armaments trade, and it's got to stop. And I want it to stop, Gemma, because on a personal level, you've revealed that you're expecting a baby. I want it all to be got rid of for the sake of your child. It's got to stop.
Do we have a lot of fun?
Oh, definitely.
In a radical stance?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. We'll all be dancing around the fire.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Absolutely. Somebody might bring out a guitar, and we'll be singing, sisters are doing it for themselves. We'll be doing all sorts of things, We'll be coming together, unified, realizing that we've cleansed the world of weapons and of people with vested interests who do not have our best interests at heart. They don't. And we've got to accept this and do something about it.
So this Planet Infinity really is broadening our minds. It's expansive. Are there any sensory experiences that you would like to highlight, whether that's smell or taste or even a particular colour that we experience throughout?
Well, I think when you're dreaming, I always think when it comes to, say, colour, we probably see colours in our dreams that we wouldn't recognise in real life, that haven't almost been invented yet. Because I think that dream, it's such a magical place to be, isn't it? When it comes to, say, taste and smell, I think a rather nice glass of red wine.
Sounds good to me.
I'm not advocating that people become alcohol dependent. You can get nice drinks now that are alcohol free. And of course, I've just had a lovely bottle of champagne, provided here at the studio. I'm just about to start a tray of canapes. My life is just like one long cocktail party.
I mean, I'm really wondering sometimes whether there are people still living like that.
Yeah, well, they are. And they're called shareholders. And a lot of them are on yachts, which are probably moored off Monaco or the south of France, laughing their heads off because they own amenities that actually belong to every single human being on this planet. And they're cleaning up. They're making money out of it.
Blimey.
Everything belongs to us, you and me, Gemma, and your baby.
All hail Planet Infinity, where anything
Definitely.
can happen. And I really appreciate the sense of kind of grit, determination, and
it's just
radical nature.
It's a question of keeping going. You've just got to keep going. And I'd say to all your listeners, please be creative. I did a show recently, it was called The 10 Commandments, and commandment number 3 was, thou must stay alive, even if it's only to spite others. And when I say others, I mean these people who have vested interests either in government, in the big corporations, in the whole of the armaments system we need to take on. We ourselves are beautiful, and all your listeners are gorgeous, and I love you all.
I'm Gemma Cairney, and you've been listening to Dream Space from Factory International. Today you heard all about David Hoyle's anti-capitalistic dream, positive undertones and radical speak about social equity and participation reigning on a planet called infinity, helping us all feel connected and in a constant state of wonder. Wow. Join us again next time to hear the Dream Space vision of photographer and theatre maker Benji Reed. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. Your support really does make a difference. Spread it far and wide. Put the link all over your socials. And if you can't wait until the next episode, head to Factory International's website. There is so much up there, a plethora of dreams and artistic content on Factory Plus. And if this is your first taste of the Dream Space universe, then wagwan. Why are you only just joining us now? Thank you so much. But there's loads of previous episodes to catch up on. We've got Zoe Ashton, Gazelle Twin, Hatain Patel, DJ Paulette. There's honestly something up there for everybody. As well as Series 1, including Maxine Peake, Danielle Braithwaite Shirley, Nabia Iqbal, Scotty. We've got performance art in there, music. We travel around the world into space. Honestly, it's really, really a joy hosting these Dream Spaces, and come on board the love train. There are some absolute delights in those conversations. Dream Space was hosted by me, Gemma Cairney, and this episode was produced by Sylvia Malnati, with sound design by Femi Oriogun-Williams and theme music by Andrew P.M. Hunt. The executive producer is Kit Callan, and this is a produced listening production for Factory International, curated by Scott Smith and Alex Mannion-Jones. Until next time.